They came to bury their son, grieving, broken, surrounded by family and friends in black. But within seconds, the solemn silence was ripped apart by gunshots. A man in a dark hoodie stood near the oak tree by the cemetery gates, raised a silver handgun, and opened fire on the mourners. Screams echoed, bodies dropped, and chaos reigned. What no one knew was this wasn't just a senseless act, it was revenge, planned for weeks, rooted in betrayal, secrets, and a family's darkest hour. This is the story of how one man's fury turned a funeral into a massacre. Stay with us to the end as we uncover the shocking truth that led to the horrifying events of that tragic afternoon. And make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more gripping real-life crime stories. Just 3 days before the shooting, 17-year-old Darius Kelman was found dead in a burned-out car on the outskirts of Atlanta. The community mourned what they thought was a drug deal gone wrong, another senseless death of a promising young man. But Darius's death was no accident. It was the match that lit a long-dormant fuse. As the Kelman family organized a public funeral, they had no idea that Darius's killer was still close, watching, waiting, and that the funeral itself would become the setting for his ultimate act of vengeance. Witnesses said the shooter moved with precision, knowing exactly who he wanted to hit. His first targets were Darius's uncle, Terrence Kelman, and his cousin Malik. Both were struck in the chest before they could react. Next was Pastor Freeman, the officiant who had barely begun his eulogy. Then the gunman turned to the pews of fold-out chairs, mowing down the guests in cold blood. Chaos erupted. People leapt over tombstones, screaming, crawling for cover. Children cried. Mothers shielded their babies. But what the public would soon learn is that this wasn't a random gunman. It was someone the family knew. The shooter's name? Lionel Ridge, 42 years old. Ex-Marine. Former security consultant. Estranged uncle of Darius Kelman. And the man who had, for over a decade, been waging a secret war against the Kelmans, whom he believed had stolen everything from him. But why would a man kill at his own nephew's funeral? For that, we need to go back 15 years, to a small business deal gone wrong, a betrayal between brothers, and the slow descent of a man who once served his country into a cold, methodical killer. Make sure you're still watching, because the next chapter of this story reveals how Lionel's past shaped his path toward mass murder. And it gets even darker. In 2010, Lionel Ridge was fresh out of the military and looking to start over. His half-brother, Marcus Kelman, Darius's father, offered him a stake in a family business, a funeral home. But Lionel claimed Marcus cheated him, forged his name on documents, and pushed him out once the business took off. No one could prove it, but Lionel lost everything: his savings, his home, and eventually his family. In his mind, the Kelmans had robbed him blind and left him to rot. Over the years, Lionel grew more unstable. He lived in a trailer outside Augusta, started hoarding weapons, and was even flagged by local police for threatening emails to Marcus. But no one thought he'd actually act. Then came the breaking point. Lionel learned that Darius was about to testify against a violent gang leader, a man Lionel secretly had ties to. Darius's testimony would bury that gang for good, and Lionel believed it was the Kelmans trying to destroy everything he had left. So he made a decision. If he couldn't hurt Marcus financially, he'd hurt him emotionally, by taking away everyone he loved. And what better place to do it than the funeral of Marcus's only son? Watch closely now, because the events that follow aren't just horrifying, they're calculated, and they reveal just how deep Lionel's grudge ran. On the morning of the funeral, Lionel parked a rented Dodge Charger 2 blocks away from Westmount Cemetery. Dressed in black slacks, a hoodie and gloves, he walked the path he'd scouted days earlier. He arrived 15 minutes before the service, positioned himself by a patch of shrubs near the exit gate, and waited. He had 2 handguns, a Glock 17 and a Smith & Wesson revolver, plus extra magazines taped to his arms. When the service began, he watched Marcus walk in last, shoulders slumped, face hidden behind sunglasses. When the first prayer ended, Lionel made his move. Witnesses later described hearing a strange echo, A hollow click. Then the first shot exploded. Within 45 seconds, he fired 28 rounds. 7 people were hit. 3 died on the spot. And Lionel vanished. Yes, you heard that right. He disappeared into thin air. Despite helicopters, bloodhounds, and checkpoints, Lionel was gone. It was as if he'd evaporated. But the chilling part? He left behind a manifesto, a 6-page handwritten letter found in the cemetery trash can, detailing his motive, the family's past betrayals, and his belief that he was the sword of justice. The FBI got involved. A statewide manhunt was launched. And for 2 weeks, nothing. No sightings. No leads. Until a tip came in from a gas station in Knoxville, Tennessee. A cashier recognized Lionel from a wanted flyer. He had shaved his beard, dyed his hair blonde, and was driving a stolen UPS van. The FBI moved fast, tracking him to a rural motel just off I-40. That's when the final standoff happened. You do not want to miss what went down inside room 12. Lionel had wired the room with makeshift booby traps, tripwires connected to fireworks, a laptop looping his funeral letter in audio. When agents broke in, Lionel opened fire again, hitting one agent in the vest. But this time, the FBI was prepared. A tactical unit used tear gas, flashbangs, and took Lionel down with a beanbag round to the chest. He survived, but barely. At his arrest, he reportedly shouted, "They took my blood, so I took theirs." And here's where things got even more disturbing. In the months leading up to the funeral shooting, Lionel had been writing a detailed journal documenting his plans. He had even drawn maps, listed names, and marked XS next to each target. It wasn't just revenge, it was methodical execution. Investigators believe he planned to escape into Mexico using fake IDs, but the quick response derailed his exit. Lionel Ridge is now facing 12 counts of attempted murder, 3 counts of first-degree murder, and domestic terrorism charges. The trial is set for later this year, and prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty. As for the Kelman family, the trauma lingers. Marcus Kelman, once a proud father and businessman, now walks with a cane, the result of a gunshot wound to his hip. His wife, Teresa, has begun a foundation for gun violence victims in her son's name, the Darius Hope Project. And the community? They still hold candlelight vigils at Westmount Cemetery. The site of the massacre is now surrounded by a memorial garden. But the question remains, could this have been prevented? Lionel was a man with a known vendetta, a paper trail of threats, and access to weapons. Yet, no one intervened. No one connected the dots until it was too late. Which begs a chilling thought. How many more Lionels are out there, walking among us, fueled by revenge and waiting for their moment? Let this story be a reminder that grief can turn into rage, and that the darkest crimes sometimes happen in broad daylight, in the places meant for peace. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another jaw-dropping true crime story like this. Drop a comment below. Do you think the signs were ignored? Could the funeral tragedy have been stopped? And how do you think justice should be served in a case like this? Your thoughts matter, and your awareness could help prevent the next horror from unfolding. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.